for those of you who don't know me, I'm a British Conservative MEP and I chair the Internal Markets and Consumer Protection Committee. And this afternoon we had a lot of fun in our committee having a joint exchange of views with the Industry Committee on the latest compromises on the digital single market. So I know that Lambert's was listening very closely, so thank you, Lambert's, another MEP colleague here tonight. So welcome to everybody who's sat in that debate and listening to that, and I hope that part of this evening might be us helping you to understand how to interpret some of the nuances about what were being said. Big welcome to our speakers, and I'll introduce them all in a moment. The digital revolution transforms the economic landscape for consumers and businesses. Innovation is revitalising areas of the economy that have been dormant, creating new jobs, new products in sectors that we never thought before would exist. And the growth of the sharing economy is a major element of this revolution. Some estimate that the sharing economy could grow from 12 billion euros last year to over 300 billion in the next 10 years. The route to self-employment has never been easier, and many people have found that they can share the flexibility from short-time work and the ability to combine shared economy roles with, for example, other work or family commitments. The distinction between being a consumer and a business is increasingly blurred, and a point that I am constantly making about the shared economy is it's not just bringing economic benefits to our society, but it's also really interesting examples about how the shared economy is creating solutions to societal problems, to problems like rural isolation or isolated groups of people, to environmental issues. I'm sure BlaBlaCar are going to tell us in a minute about how in 2 years they've saved the amount of fuel it takes to light Los Angeles for a year. So helping to solve environmental issues, helping to solve societal issues as well. But there are issues, and different member states have taken very different approaches to regulating services. I'm always concerned about rushing headlong into banning different business models, because I think there's always a risk that you can stifle innovation and growth, and simply extending existing regulation to participants in the sharing economy could be disproportionate and end up banning some different business models. I know from especially smaller businesses in the shared economy that they want to make it easier for them to set up and shop online, pay taxes online, prevent price discrimination in different areas, that they want to be able to take models they're creating in one country or in one location and easily replicate that across Europe, and that there are huge advantages if they can have a digital single market approach. That's why I believe that we need to put our innovators and our entrepreneurs right at the heart of the discussion we're having on the digital single market, and make sure that our regulatory framework doesn't put you at a disadvantage. Having said that, the competition rules are what holds together the single market. Without the competition rules, we wouldn't have had a single market for the past many decades on traditional goods. And competition rules are absolutely key to that idea that the marketplace is a fair place in order to trade. And we need to make sure that those competition rules are a level playing field for the new economy as well as for the traditional economy. We've had a long debate this afternoon, and it's clear that there are differences of opinion in parts of the Parliament, particularly on platforms and how much we should regulate platforms. I keep reminding people that one of the reasons platforms are growing so much is because consumers like using them, and as the Consumer Affairs Committee I try and put on that consumer perspective from time to time, so consumers like using them. And the issue of the intermediary liability was an issue that came up a few times. If we make the intermediary liability too harsh on a platform, then we will stifle the ability of new platforms to develop. I keep reminding people, though, that the shared economy is not all platforms. That's not the same debate. There are clearly areas where they overlap, but you can't deal with every issue that covers platforms when you're in a discussion on the shared economy. But the level of regulation on platforms is going to be key, and how you differentiate between different types of platforms. I like the comment from some of my colleagues as let's try not to solve problems that don't exist. So let's try and make sure that we're looking at real problems. Another key area where there will be a difference of opinion is how much we need to regulate on the shared economy, particularly on issues to do with workers' rights and social issues. So advice and thoughts on those issues will be important too. And I think a third area where there may be a difference of opinion is how far we want to go on geo-blocking. What is justified and what is unjustified price discrimination. Some of us who are saying we should be able to live within the existing legislation in the Services Directive and in competition rules. The Commission's saying I think we need to do a bit more. But what is the right level? Clearly, forcing a tiny shop. I think it was Dennis de Jong's example in one of the Shadows meeting. His local butcher shop, they've encouraged to set up a website. That doesn't mean that the local butcher shop needs to sell those sausages in 28 different countries. Is to encourage the butcher shop to get a few more local customers is why they wanted to do this. So what is the right level of how much we encourage people to have to sell across borders will be a key area in this discussion. But tonight, as I said, we're going to be focusing on shared economy and the competition policy issues that brings up. With us, we are very lucky to have a mixture of experts from the industry and experts from the Commission and independent thinkers as well. So Eliana Gassas-Tolan, who's the Deputy Chief Economist for the European Commission in DG GROW, Alexandra de Steel, Professor of EU Law and the Director of CRIDS, Stefan Kratis, who we hear from often on this subject on eBay because you reach out to many different small companies across Europe. Fabian Weivel from BlaBlaCar. I'm sorry if I just stole your key statistic, but it does stay in one's mind. Juliet Langley from Airbnb. Thank you for coming this evening. Guillermo Beltra, who is very well known in my office because he speaks for Consumer Affairs for BAEC. And then Serafina Abet from GSMA. You're going to summarize the whole evening.